The experience of walking the Yellow River Ancient Trail with my friends many years ago was the most thrilling trip I have ever experienced. The ancient Yellow River road we walked on had not been navigable for nearly 5,000 years, so no one dared to take us there. We searched for a long time at the dock. Finally, we found an old boatman who had been sailing on the Yellow River all his life. The identity of the old boatman is rather unique. He is neither a fisherman nor a ferryman. He is a water ghost. Water ghosts are an ancient profession, similar to Tibetan sky burial masters and Xiangxi corpse carriers, both of whom deal with the dead. It's just that the sky burial master and the corpse bearer are guarding the dead. Water ghosts deal with the mysterious island of death under the Yellow River. The density of the human body is similar to that of water. After the corpse sinks to the bottom of the water, as the corpse decays, the body gradually becomes bloated. These corpse gases turn the person's face into a ferocious one, and the lips turn outward. The big-headed ghost looks like this. At this time, as the corpse chi increases, the corpse will gradually float to the surface, first the upper limbs, then the lower limbs. Because the pelvic bones of men and women are different, these floating corpses also have a special feature, which is called men and women lying on their backs. According to this principle, people who die in the Yellow River will float up on their own within 3 to 5 days. At this time, the family members of the deceased only need to ask the boatman to fish the body out. The boatman would never accept payment for salvaging the body of a deceased person. If you accept such unlucky money, you will be in trouble for 3 years. However, the family of the deceased must invite the boatman to have a vegetarian meal at home. Before leaving, they must tie a 3-inch wide and 1-inch long red cloth strip on the boatman's middle finger. This is to ward off evil spirits and is also a common practice on the Yellow River. According to the ancient rules, these corpse fishers also have the rules of corpse fishermen. They only fish for corpses. They use a long bamboo pole to pick up the weeds and branches floating on the Yellow River. After discovering the corpse, they cover it with a white cloth. Then he took a hemp rope wrapped with black dog hair, tied it around the body's waist, and hung the body on a shady cliff, waiting for family members to identify him. After identifying it clearly, he carried the body ashore. Of course, the corpse collectors don't fish out everything. If they encounter a corpse standing upright in the water with only a trace of hair floating on the water, they will turn around and leave, and they will never try to salvage it. Their explanation for this was that they were just bringing people to retrieve corpses, not ghosts to redress grievances. The corpses standing in the water were not corpses, but a kind of evil spirit. It is strange to say that many people died in the water. After that, the corpse will not float up. When the corpse is exposed, it will still look like it was just dead. The corpse is still the same as before. Not only that, these corpses in the water will always stand upright in the water, maintaining a walking posture. As the water waves move forward slowly, it feels like taking a slow stroll. Many times in the dry riverbed, you can see clear footprints underwater, walking step by step towards the deepest point, and when you reach the end, you will turn in one direction and continue walking, just like walking underwater. It is said that these people who died on the Yellow River were so resentful that they refused to leave. They would not fall until they killed others. This legend is terrible. Think about it. If you take a boat across the Yellow River and the boat reaches the middle of the river, you look down and you see a person walking underwater. While walking, he will give you a sinister smile. With this feeling, your trip to the Yellow River will definitely not be comfortable. If you encounter such a dead body, the family of the deceased will look for the water ghost at this time. Water ghost is the name given to those who fish for corpses along the Yellow River. This kind of water ghost is not just a corpse hunter. They are all hereditary and have unique abilities. The unique skill is to ask for help. It is said that the water ghost's invitation to pray is a secret technique passed down from ancestors. Its behavior is weird and strange, and outsiders have no way of knowing it. Some people say that water ghosts have used a secret potion to wash their eyes since they were young. After decades of practicing water observation on the banks of the Yellow River, their eyes can penetrate the turbid river water and see underwater at a glance. The walking corpse. This kind of water ghost usually lives alone by the Yellow River. He has no children. He has a black dog at home since he was a child. There is a large bamboo pine in the courtyard, and an octagonal mirror is tied to the bamboo pine. These are all objects used to ward off evil spirits. After the water ghost came home, the first thing he did was to call the black dog. And then he looked in the mirror. If there was nothing strange, he went back to the house to cook and sleep. If the black dog keeps barking and is half healthy, he will go to the Yellow River for another walk, remove the dirt on his body, and then return home to the old Yellow River. There are many theories about water ghosts. Some people say that the black dog he raised is a dragon dog in the Yellow River. Some people say that water ghosts have fed on water lice since they were young. During the period of transformation. This is the only one. Only after the moisture is released can you approach the zombies in the water. These statements are all legends and not new. We asked someone to bring some snacks and visited the water ghost. After liberation, the whole country was getting rid of superstitions. The bamboo poles in his yard were broken. The mirror was smashed and thrown into the Yellow River. Only an old man with a black whistle was left in the small yard, guarding a thin skinny black dog. Seeing that he had no children, the government designated him as a 5 guaranteed household and gave him some food during the holidays, otherwise he would have starved to death. After explaining his purpose, the water ghost pondered for a long time. Later, he told us that it is not impossible for you to think about the Yellow River. But in the past, when Emperor Qianlong crossed the Yellow River, he had to burn paper and kneel in obeisance according to the rules. When he was floating in the Yellow River, his life was entirely handed over to the Yellow River Lord. If we don't follow the rules of our ancestors, we will all have to fall into the Yellow River to feed the carps. Do as the Romans do. We often deal with the Yellow River. Knowing the evil ways of the Yellow River, we naturally agreed. We bought the equipment according to the old water ghost's request and followed the water ghost to the bank of the Yellow River. A lonely boat docked by the river. The old water ghost told us that it was his boat. This wooden boat has been passed down for several generations, and the ancestors, who were still elderly, invited the Yellow River Shagwang from the Yellow River. The Qing government ordered the Shandong Ship King to build a specially made mountain wooden boat to catch the dead and recover the corpse. So it was named Ghost Ship. The old man cherished it as much as his life, and gave him some tung oil from time to time. So this boat, passed down from that time to now, is still solid and tight, like a complete piece of fur. The black dog jumped on the bow, and the old water ghost stood still and told us about the pre-liberation period. The Yellow River corpse incident caused quite a stir in the lower reaches of the Yellow River. In order to prevent the Japanese from invading Zhengzhou, Chiang Kai-shek blew up the dam at Huayuankou. For a time, the Yellow River flowed backwards, drowning hundreds of thousands of people. Afterwards, there were tens of thousands of corpses floating in the Yellow River. The corpses were floating down the current. They were all blocked in the river bend. Groups of big fish were holding their sperm and eating human corpses under the water. At night, you can hear the clicking sound, like a group of people singing an opera with their voices lowered. Occasionally, there will be one or two cries. I wonder if the fish is eating the people alive before they are completely dead. It sounded so creepy that no one dared to go out and see it in the dark. It is said that many people died from famine in those years, especially when there were continuous floods along the Yellow River. Who hasn't seen a dead person? But after all, there were too many corpses, floating over one after another, and they stunk in the water. People who were so smelly did not dare to cross the Yellow River. Later, there was really nothing I could do. The government came forward to ask nearby fishermen to retrieve the corpses and burn them collectively on the river beach. This would also prevent the corpses from rotting and spreading the plague. As a result, the fishermen found that there was a big problem. The corpses floating upstream did not go anywhere and were left alone. Just go to a place. Feeling that these corpses did not float here by chance, something under the water called them here. It is said that these fishermen were curious and forced by the government's power. So they called on everyone to fish out the floating corpses ashore. They discovered something strange here. Generally speaking, after a person dies, the body will sink under the water and float up after the body rots. Therefore, the higher the corpse goes, the more severe the decomposition will be. But it was just the opposite here. The fishermen found that the corpses floating at the top were the most complete, almost as if they were freshly dead. On the contrary, the lower the corpses, the more rotten they were. When the corpses reached the bottom, they turned into a pile of bones, forming a mountain of bones. The fishermen all murmured, maybe all the corpses under the water had been eaten by fish. But it doesn't look like it. If there were really so many fish, even if people were to fish for corpses here, the fish wouldn't be scattered in time. At least they would have to splash out a few times. But look at it. There's no movement at all. It's like a pool of stagnant water. Although everyone was afraid, they all knew the taboos in the water. And no one dared to say anything. They just worked there and thought about getting rid of these dead bodies and going home to sleep with their wives and children. This was the business. At this moment, there was a sudden rumble under the water, like an earthquake, and the boat jumped on the water. The Yellow River water seemed to be boiling. And huge bubbles popped up from the bottom of the water. The bubbles were so smelly that everyone couldn't help but pinch their noses amidst the rolling waves. At this time, a roar was heard in the water, and a huge black coffin rolled up under the water. The coffin was as black as ink, with bright red ink lines crisscrossing it. And tadpole-like runes were drawn with cinnabar everywhere. The red was bright red and the black was jet black. It looked particularly shocking. The huge coffin shook a few times and then began to move slowly. The floating corpses that were originally piled in a pile also chased after him, surrounded it, and floated straight towards the shore. At this time, there were knowledgeable people on the shore, so they shouted, "Oh!" They almost ran away. The Yellow River Corpse King has come ashore. The legend about corpses in the Yellow River has been circulating on both sides of the Yellow River for a long time. According to folklore, the Yellow River corpse is buried in the Yellow River. It is the transformation of many wronged souls. It can eat people's hearts alive, charm their minds, and turn people into ghosts, following behind them. Some people say that this corpse wang is a kind of witchcraft from southern Xinjiang, a kind of poison that is cultivated in human corpses. This poison will get into a person's internal organs, control the person's mind, turn the person into a walking zombie, and eventually be eaten to death. But no matter what, the Yellow River Lion King that floated on the Yellow River that day was actually a large black coffin. Later, knowledgeable people said that the coffin was not a kind thing at first glance. It was a coffin made of pure wood and was specially used to worship the Queen of the Yellow River. This thing has been sinking in the water for hundreds of years at least. Why? The flood actually washed out this evil thing. Evil things appear in the world, and the Yellow River is full of blood. It seems that China is really about to change. Many people ask, what is the Empress of the Yellow River? Since ancient times, there have been frequent floods in the Yellow River. And people on both sides of the Yellow River have always worshipped the Dragon King of the Yellow River. During the flood season, whole cows and sheep heads are often brought to the Yellow River. But the most terrifying thing is the human sacrifice. Some places offer boys and girls to the Yellow River King, and some places offer the Yellow River Queen to the Yellow River King. This Queen of the Yellow River must be a virgin girl of the Yellow River, beautiful, young, kind, and able to sing folk songs, so as to relieve the boredom of King Huang. When Huang de Wang is in a good mood, he will not be irritable or get angry. After such a girl is selected, she will be wrapped in a layer of silk, which is soaked in sesame oil, and then, under the watch of the whole village, she will be thrown into the roaring water of the Yellow River in a special altar at the mouth of the Yellow River, to complete the sacrifice to King Huang. Think about it. For such a young and beautiful girl to be thrown into the Yellow River for no reason, no matter who she is, the resentment will not be small. Therefore, when the altar of the Queen of the Yellow River is placed, trouble often occurs. People often see naked girls playing in the water in the Yellow River. And people often hear resentful folk songs coming from the water in the middle of the night. Everyone closes their doors and windows, and even if something big happens at night, they don't dare to go out. Passed by there. But no matter how you take precautions, people are still drowning there. The faces of the deceased are hideous and complex as bones. And their fingernails are full of river mud. As for the big coffin, it floated all the way to the shore and ran aground. It stopped and made a lot of noise before some brave fishermen came to take a look at it quietly. The coffin looked evil at first glance. It's normal to say that some evil things were unearthed in the ancient Yellow River Road. But the coffin was completely black and ridiculously large. It didn't look like it was washed away by the Yellow River later. It looked more like it had been lying here quietly for who knows how many years. Everyone was stunned. And then counting on the fingers, isn't the location of the coffin emerging from the water facing the stone platform for human sacrifice? Could it be that all the human sacrifices thrown into the water over the years were thrown on top of this black coffin? There is another possibility. Could it be that the black official sensed the human sacrifice here, so he floated all the way over from the Yellow River, and then placed it here upright? In this case, what was put in this huge coffin? Think again, everyone. There is a distant song here in the middle of the night. People who drowned in the water for no reason, especially those whose family members died in the water, are crying and complaining. They wish they could use a kitchen knife to kill the coffin. Chopped alive. In this way, everyone suddenly concluded that there was a ghost in this coffin, but how to deal with this coffin needed to be considered in the long run. Everyone looked for the local old Taoist priest and listened to his explanation of how to get rid of the water coffin. This water is an evil thing, but it needs after opening the coffin. Sprinkle the dregs mixed with cinnabar into the coffin and burn it with fire to burn it. But this method is most afraid of rain, because if the corpse gets into water, it will no longer be plastered. The next day, the rooster crowed 3 times, and the villagers came to the river beach carrying hoes and kitchen knives. Everyone worked together to lift up the black coffin, which was as heavy as a rock, and dragged it all the way to the river beach city. As the old Taoist priest sang a long coffin opening, several strong men worked together to dig out the coffin nails, inserted them into the coffin with a crowbar, and suddenly pried open the heavy coffin bars. At this time, everyone looked into the coffin and were shocked by what was in the coffin. Each one of them was so frightened that their faces turned pale and they could not utter a word. Inside the black coffin was cracked open, and there were round and red female corpses lying side by side. Everyone took a closer look and found that these female corpses were not others, but the female corpses that had been thrown into the water from the stone platform. The faces of these female corpses were gradually turning red, and Hong Shun seemed to be asleep. They were wearing floral cloth clothes. There are also robes with big sleeves and graceful gauze, which are obviously worn by women of every dynasty. How did these Yellow River empresses end up in this black coffin? What is this black coffin used for? This scene is really weird. If a zombie jumped out of this coffin, or even a water monster inside, so many people would rush forward with hoes and sickles, and they would kill the Dragon King even if he was still alive. However, when these strange female corpses were lying in the coffins, there was no change at all, and everyone was really scared. All of a sudden they all retreated. At this time, as long as one person runs away first, everyone will probably run home like crazy. The old man's hand was originally behind his back. He was afraid of being hit by the corpse's energy. At this time, he was afraid of ruining his image. He coughed a few times and went up. He knocked on the coffin door with his long nails. His face changed slightly and he murmured. He muttered, "Oh my God, there are a few living corpses in the soul-calling coffin made of gloomy wood. It seems that this evil thing has been repaired." At that time, he said solemnly, "Fellow villagers, this black coffin is not the Queen of the Yellow River, but the Yellow River corpse tyrant who specializes in sucking people's souls. The Yellow River corpse tyrant sucks the yin energy of these dead people and has become a demon. Now, you have already made a grudge against the Corpse King. If you don't eradicate the root cause, I am afraid that none of you here will survive tonight." These words that the old master said were so powerful that everyone's legs and feet felt weak for a moment. No one dared to take a step forward, and all expressed their willingness to listen to the old Taoist priest's orders. The old Taoist made the final decision, first letting women, children and the elderly leave, and then letting people whose zodiac signs are dragon, snake, and ox to avoid them first. We love the water, but we are afraid of water corpses. We are afraid of water corpses acting strangely when the time comes. Everyone stands facing their heads. After the adjustment is completed, there are only 50 or 60 strong laborers left on the river beach. Although the black coffin is full of ghosts, at present, with the clear sky and bright day, and the strong men who are dedicated to survival, they can suppress this ghost. The old man nodded and ordered people to kill a black dog and 7 big red roosters on the river beach. He first poured the black dog's blood on the coffin, and then poured 7 bowls of rooster blood along the 7 places of the black coffin. Then he ordered people to sprinkle a layer of dry sand mixed with cinnabar on Guanjum, and finally added dry firewood and lit it on fire. The coffin exploded with crackles. In the raging fire, everyone could clearly hear the heart-piercing screams coming from the fire, as if many women were struggling desperately in the fire. Everyone was horrified when they heard it, even though it was under the bright sun underneath, but the body still broke out in cold sweat more than once. The fire burned for 3 full days before it burned out. Although there was a light rain in the middle, everyone kept adding fuel to the fire, and the fire was barely extinguished. After the fire burned out, the old Taoist led the villagers to take a look. The dark coffin was not burned. The coffin was completely charred. The body had long been burned to charcoal. On the coffin wall, one could clearly see the deep lines. Scratch marks. Everyone understood how thrilling it was at that time, and they all thanked the old Taoist priest. The old Taoist priest looked at the water of the Yellow River and let out a long sigh. Everyone present. He was the only one who saw it. Although the black coffin was completely charred, there was one piece missing. Apparently the Yellow River Corpse King escaped into the Yellow River when it rained. The Corpse King's entry into the water was unpredictable. The old Taoist sat in a black coffin that night and died on the beach of the Yellow River. When he died, his whole body was like a skeleton, as if his blood had been drained overnight. He left a last word on the coffin, saying that after his death, he would be asked to throw him naked from the altar into the water. In addition, he asked the villagers to split the black coffin, gather together a gossip he drew in the black coffin, and give it to the old water ghost who fished out corpses on the Yellow River, sealing it on a wooden boat. There is a palm-sized piece of red on the coffin, which is a Bagua diagram drawn by the Taoist using paper as an example. This Taoist priest has extraordinary fingering power. And the Bagua is vermilion in color and will never fade. This red color was painted on by an old Taoist priest with his last breath of heat and blood. Over the years, I have heard countless versions of the story of the Yellow River Corpse King, and all of them have been regarded as folklore. But on this day, I really saw the gloomy coffin that the old Taoist priest had smeared with blood. Because the ship we are going to take this time is the ghost ship with the Yin City coffin sealed inside. Looking at that piece of Bagua, although it has been going on for decades, it is still glowing with vermilion color, just like the old Taoist who stood on the edge of the Yellow River for a long time. Looking at the rushing water, his eyes were as turbid as the Yellow River. The hair is also thin and colorless, as if filled with sand. The skin is bronze, and the human seems to have grown directly from the soil. The black dog is squatting on the bow of the boat like an iron pillar, watching the river water motionlessly. As the Yellow River water rushes away for thousands of miles, the old man who has gone through many vicissitudes of life, the extremely thin black dog, and the Yellow River that has been running for thousands of years. This is an oil painting that will never be erased from my memory.